In today's video, we're going to talk about what causes lifting and how to fix it right now on the Biz Talk. Tracy, do you like my socks today? They're purple and they have roosters on them. Aren't they cute?
I'm not commenting on your socks.
What?
I already did.
I know. That's why I'm asking
informed you what kind of socks they were.
They're cute roosters. The little roosters. They're cute little roosters on my socks. And they're purple. Do you like it? Purple.
Are they purple and gold? We got Lakers things going on.
Well, not really. I have this whole purple thing I got for Father's Day. Family.
Purple thing.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain, but purple socks, roosters. That's my main thing. Purple socks and roosters. What causes it and how to avoid it?
I want to know how to avoid you.
That's never, ever, Tracy. I already told you can never leave this company.
Jeez, they look for your eyes.
All right.
A little fearful.
You're genuinely, I saw you. There's fear in your eyes. You're like, I gotta
what is
get
going
out.
on?
Oh my God. All right. This is a very common thing that happens, right? It's probably the most common problem in nails, would you say?
Especially when you're starting.
Especially when you're starting. Lifting, what causes it? Now, look, okay, we will do a actual video.
Yeah, I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, we're talking about it. But look, there's a lot of people that listen to the podcast where they're driving and they love to listen to it. I think this is a great topic for them while they're driving. Like, oh, maybe that's it. Oh, maybe that's it. So I still think it's good, even though there's no like visual of what we're talking about. For all you nail people out there, you're going to understand exactly what Tracy's talking about today. So take that, number one. Visualize, Tracy, the vision. What the hell causes freaking lifting?
Number one thing, 90% of the time, I usually say 99% of the time, is prep.
Why?
Because when we're first starting out, we're very afraid of prep. We're afraid of getting too close to the cuticle area. We think we're prepping in the right spot. I hear this a lot, but I'm prepping in the right spot. I'm prepping exactly the way you're showing. And I'll, if they're here, because OWC, we'll have people week long, and I'm like, show me. And then they'll prep. I'm like, you're not anywhere near the cuticle area where you need to be.
So they think they're actually, when you say prep, you're talking about like removing the shine.
Removing the shine, prepping, removing any excess protein growth around the cuticle
area.
They're too afraid to tuck up and get close to that cuticle area, so they back off, and they always get lifting. Well, why do you get lifting? Because you never prepped
that area
all the way back. So
and so what's left is like a shiny surface that maybe the nail's not going to bond.
There's still protein growth. There may be still some oils on there, and it's not going to stick to that.
So proper prep ultimately means a nice, clean surface where the shine has been removed so that the product can bond.
Correct. Then you go into removing oils. Some people are not using the proper cleansers that aren't going to properly cleanse the cuticle or the nail plate of any dust and oils. Some people just dust it off. You got to cleanse. You got to remove the dust. Then you need to cleanse. You got to get all that off, or you're going to get lifting. I've even seen people put it on top. They just kind of shake the hand, and then you still got dust and stuff and particles on the nail plate. That's going to cause lifting.
What is a proper cleanser? You said some people don't use the right cleanser. What, in your opinion, is a proper cleanser?
Swipe. Something like Swipe. Swipe is formulated to cleanse the nail plate correctly. Now, I know a lot of people, because I see a lot of people who are always trying to go around that. If there was a shortcut, I'd tell you. I've always been like that. Like, oh, no, just use this.
Well, you're about saving time.
I'm about saving time.
Yes.
I'm about saving money. I get it. Now, but here's the thing. If you're using straight alcohol, most of them are not high enough concentrate. Most of them still have buffers in them, which is going to leave residue on the nail plate. Some people use straight acetone. You can actually over dehydrate the nail plate, which will cause lifting. So you want something that's balanced, that is going to prep the nail plate exactly the way you want it. After that, maybe not using the right I used to be a primer girl. I used primer all the time. I switched to Protein Bond. No, my lifting problems were gone.
So when we actually saw this morning on our stream, somebody was asking the difference between a primer, is that Protein Bond, or what's the difference? So when you say primer, what are you talking about?
A traditional primer is an acid primer. It chemically etches the nail plate, getting it ready for product. So it's kind of putting like little pits in the nail plate. Problem is it's chemically etching the nail plate.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
So you can start thinning out the nail plate. Now, the thinner the nail plate, the harder it is to get things to stick, by the way. So you can start getting, if you're an aggressive, I'm going to take an 80 grit file and then I'm going to chemically etch the nail. You can start thinning that nail plate out and you're like, why is things all of a sudden not lifting? It's because the nail plate's so thin, right?
Why is it lifting or not?
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
All of a sudden you're getting lifting because
it's so thin.
It's starting to thin out,
I see,
right?
okay.
So Protein Bond is not an acid primer. All it does is it sticks to the nail plate. It sticks to the product. It's like a two-sided sticky tape.
Right.
People say it's sticky. It's supposed to be sticky. That's like when it gets really sticky, that's gold right there. Okay. So that's what you want. And going back to the prep, sorry about the file. Sometimes people will go so aggressive. And then you got the other people that go, I used a fine bit.
Right.
I've used a fine file. You need a medium. There's a middle ground. We're not trying to etch the crap out of the nail, but we do need to remove, give it a little texture and remove the shine.
Got it. And then just so you guys understand, and maybe you can look at the bottle yourself and see, what Tracey's talking about in primer is methacrylic acid.
Methacrylic acid.
Exactly, which is on there, which is it's a no-go for me and for us. I mean,
that's all we were taught in school,
I know,
right?
Exactly.
That's all we're taught, and it's like I have been burnt by that stuff, and it's just like, why? I just never. We had no options.
Yeah.
And then Protein Bond, I found Protein Bond, and I'm just like, wow. I was scared to death to try it though, because I just imagined everybody's fingers falling off. But man, to have something that you don't have to worry about getting on this. I mean, you don't want stuff on the skin. Anything
ever, right?
But
of course.
You touch the skin with primer. And it's going to happen.
Yeah.
We've all done it, right? And it burns because it's acid.
Yeah, because it's acid, exactly. Yeah. So Protein Bond, you're going to use a medium grit file. You're going to make sure that you are getting back that cuticle. You are going to remove the protein growth so it's not little bumpy, back there. It's nice and smooth. Smooth as in, it's textured. But there's no protein growth, is what
Correct.
I mean. Yeah,
correct.
I don't
because
mean
picture
smooth.
it this way: acrylic and gel don't stick to the skin, right? If we
Right.
get it on the skin, it's going to pop off.
Right.
That's going to happen. Same thing with protein growth.
Right.
It's kind of sticking to something similar to skin, and it's not going to adhere.
Right.
It's going to pop.
Right.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure. I think one of the more fascinating things is when people tell you, like, I'm doing that, but then they come into OWC and you actually see what they're doing. And they're like, oh, it's like a light bulb moment.
Yeah.
Right?
A lot of times I use a marker. I think I've done that with you.
You have. Actually, if you guys watch our acrylic series, OWC acrylic series that Tracey did with me, that's what we did.
Yeah.
I think it's the first video.
Yeah, because
Second
it
video.
really shows, it gives the student a visual. I put a marker exactly where it needs to be prepped, and they come in and they prep, and that marker is still there.
Yeah.
And so now they're like, oh, I get it. I have to, and if you prepped your arbor band correctly, it's not going to cut.
Right.
And we're on a very low, and we're not putting pressure. So, and we're
Right.
keeping it moving. We're not going at it at an angle. So you're not divot. Yeah, but I like doing that marker thing because I think it really gives them a good idea of where they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I remember we did do that. I think it's the second video or third video in that series. Actually, the first one was just picking up pearls, and the second one we did that. And it's very easy to see, I have to get all that where the marker is, like, sort of off, right? Yep. And so you can very easily see where you need to be, and it's important.
Yep. Practice on yourself.
Yeah.
I can't say that enough. That's what gave me all the confidence is sometimes I learned what to do and what not to do, but I was doing it on myself. So the pressure. I don't care if you don't wear nails. You have to prep. You have to do certain things on yourself so you know the feel, and that'll give you confidence in doing it with other people.
Right. Within the category of prep, are those the main things? Are there other things within prep that could cause lifting?
Yes. One other thing, and this falls in prep because we're talking protein bond.
Yep.
So as an experienced nail tech with protein bond, sometimes we start getting lazy, and I've done it. Like all of a sudden I'm getting lifting. I'm like, Melissa's done it. Many of us have done it. And like, what is going on? It's because we got a little careless with the protein bond because it doesn't burn, right? We try to keep it off the skin. Of course we do. But sometimes you can actually flood that nail plate. You're putting too much protein bond. And then it's doing the opposite. It's now acting as a barrier to the grip.
The bonding, right.
It's too much. So watch how much you need to put a nice coat on there. It needs to be a full coat. I do it twice. We say 1 time for most people, 2 times for heavy lifters. I don't want to find out you're a heavy lifter.
Right.
But don't get lazy with it. Just because it doesn't burn or I'm not actually touching the skin, but you're still getting a good puddle back there. Don't do that because it will actually cause lifting.
Yeah. Okay. That's another thing to watch out for, which is great. From there, let's say you've got the prep correctly in acrylic gel. What else can cause lifting? A lot of times we see, in the cuticle area, I'm getting lifting back here. Yeah. If your prep is good, let's say you are getting thoroughly back there, what could be causing that?
So there's a couple things. The number one thing, this is when people ask us, what kind of pearl do I need to pick up? And I ask, what are you doing?
Right.
What part of the nail are you doing? Why? Because the free edge, I work with more clay-like consistency. The middle, it's kind of in between. The back is more wet.
Yeah, I think this is a huge key.
You need a fairly wet pearl in the back because acrylic is at its best adhesion when it's wet and first laid down, right? So 2 things. Can't have it dry or it's going to lift. Second, once you put it down, you need to work it to the cuticle right away because that's when it's at its best adhesion.
Right.
So too dry, you're going to end up with lifting.
Right.
It happens.
What if you get a nice wet consistency, but then you build too much of a ledge versus like a nice smooth?
I've done this. I used to do it all the time. If you have to file a bunch, okay, just picture it this way. I'm putting a lot of pressure. You'll see clients do this. They're always constantly to check to see if they're lifting, and they're putting pressure back there, and they're kind of pulling at it. They're causing lifting. So if you put a lot of product back there and you have to do a lot of filing, sometimes you'll see it lift before they ever get out the door. Why? Because we're putting a ton of pressure to file a bunch of stuff off where we could have just went thinner. The cuticle area does not need to be thick, right? It does not need to be thick. So make sure it's thinner back there, so less filing, which means you're not going to cause your own lifting issue.
Right.
Then there's one more, and I just had this experience, so I'm going to use it. And if this was you, thank you for this because this is important to know. Someone reached out via Instagram, and they said that they're starting to get lifting, right, all of a sudden. But here's what they did. They took their brush, and she said, I always clean it with monomer. She said, I always clean it with monomer. She goes, but I thought the other day, a couple weeks ago, I'm going to clean it with acetone. Right? She cleaned a brush with acetone. It fried her brush. So she used cuticle oil to condition her brush and then tried to clean the cuticle oil out. Cuticle oil and acrylic, no mix. I mean, I've seen the actual people, even because after they prep the nail and they take cleanser or swipe to it, right?
Yeah.
They'll go around with the cuticle oil because it looks dry and it doesn't look so pretty.
Yes.
Process doesn't need to be pretty. So anytime you're introducing cuticle oil, whether you've conditioned your brush with it or you're putting it around the skin, if it touches that nail plate,
Problem.
You're going to get lifting.
That's so interesting. And ultimately, that was probably causing her issues, for sure.
Totally. I'm like, you got to get a new brush. I don't know that you could get all that oil out of your brush if you conditioned it.
Yeah.
I mean, I that stinks, but at least that's the problem and you can fix it.
Right, exactly. What about gel, where you don't have to worry about product consistency, right? It is already in the consistency. Like there's no wet or dry or clay-like. You don't have to worry about that. But when you're applying it to the nail, what can cause lifting? Again, assuming that prep is perfect and good.
A couple things. Don't float your base. Your base needs to be pushed in. It needs to be a nice thin consistency that completely covers the natural nail, but it doesn't need to be thick. Don't float it. Base is for adhering. It's the foundation. The other thing I see, if you don't cure it properly or your lights are going dead, you can get lifting, right? Acrylic or gel, keep it off the skin. If you get it on the skin and you don't clean it right away, again, we try to keep everything off the skin.
Of course.
Don't want contact dermatitis, but if it happens, you didn't see it, it rolled, you just didn't see it, you got to take care of it because, again, product doesn't stick to skin. So it's going to lift there, and it's not, you didn't have a good adhesion, obviously, to the cuticle area, so now you're going to get lifting.
Right. What if you do build it too thick, like on the edges with the cuticle? That also, right? If there's too much of a ledge. Applies. Yeah.
Same thing. If you have to file a ton in the back of the cuticle area, no matter what the product is, you can cause your own lifting.
Right. How about in the filing process? During filing, let's say you have the perfect prep. Let's say you lay down the right consistencies in acrylic or with the gel. You're doing everything correctly. It's time to file. Can you cause lifting in the file finishing process?
Just what we're talking about. If it's too much product,
and
you're filing ton, yes, you can break your adhesion up that way. Or I've done this. I filed too much off, and got rid of the product at the cuticle area. So I always like to protein bond before I top coat. That all just kind of seals everything back in. If I did get a little thin in the cuticle area, but those are the kind of the ways that you can with the filing. Another way you can get it's a form of lifting. It's lifting. It really is, but it's pocket lifting is what we call it, right? And that's a center pop.
Okay.
So it's completely encased.
It's like a bubble.
It's a bubble.
Yeah.
It's a bubble. A lot of times you'll see that with tips.
Okay.
And it's because you're securing with glue. Glue can pop, but typically it means you put your tip on too tight.
Got it.
You're forcing it down, right?
So you're not sizing correctly.
And then you hit it just right. Pop.
Just pops. Got it. All right. I think we've covered a lot of information here. If there's any other type of lifting that you guys have questions on that you may be seeing, please let us know in the comments below. We'll try to answer your questions or any ways to resolve it. Also put in the comments below. Tracey, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for joining us, and we will see you next time on the Biz Talk.
Subscribe the channel now. Subscribe the channel now. Subscribe to the channel now. Subscribe to the channel.